Beautiful June 26th day, as this is our first meeting since the summer solstice. I wish everybody hope everybody enjoyed the longest day, because every day after this is just downhill from here. So, yeah. All right, members of council, there is agenda before you. There is one addition to the agenda package or the meeting schedule. It is number 11.1 will be added, which is a personal matter in accordance with section FOIP 24. We'll be going into closed session for that. Okay. Administration, anything else to add to the agenda?
Nothing further, Your Worship.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Hansard.
Your Worship, I move that Town Council adopt the June 26, 2023 regular council meeting agenda as amended.
Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Moving on agenda number 3, which is the public input session. This is the time that we allow residents to address council on anything that's not on the current agenda. Administration, has anybody registered to speak?
Through Your Worship, no, we do not.
Okay, thank you. Is anybody in the gallery like to speak and address the council on anything that's not on the current agenda? Okay. See now, with number 4, and today we have an appointment of a deputy mayor. Administration?
Your Worship, just briefly, I think the lead sheet outlines the timing of the different deputy mayors, and the motion is before you, and we typically have a swearing-in ceremony, an opportunity for any members present that wish to take pictures or in other ways be a part of the swearing-in of the current deputy mayors.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. And for those that follow along in our agenda packages, we rotate deputy mayors every 4 months, so it gives every member of council the opportunity to fill in for myself when I'm not available, and just to be tagging along on some meetings that maybe not be privy to council. So with that, Councillor Hansard, as the previous deputy mayor, thank you much for your work and your service in the last 4 months.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay. I'll require a motion, please. Councillor Meyer.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council appoint Councillor Melanie Loynes as Deputy Chief Elected Official for the term of June 26th, 2023 to October 31st, 2023, or until the appointment of the next Deputy Chief Elected Official.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments, and debate on it? See none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Loynes, let's have your swearing in so you can be official. I, Councillor Melanie Loynes, swear that I will diligently, faithfully, as my ability, execute to law the office of deputy mayor, the town of St. Louis.
Where do you want us? Get out of the way.
Right, congratulations, Councillor Loynes. Again, for the next 4 months, I guess you have to be on your phone a little bit more, just in case there's a few events and meetings that I cannot attend. I'll be forwarding you those invites first.
Sounds great.
Good. Thank you. And moving on with the agenda is 4.2, which is a presentation from SevGen Consulting. So welcome. There's a sign-up sheet there, and it's also a mic. So if you just speak directly into the mic.
Excellent. Danse, hello. Dom Scott Gakio. I greet each and every one of you. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Derek Bruno. I'm the managing partner of SevGen Consulting, and for those of you who have attended our sessions, our Indigenous Cultural Awareness sessions, that I've had the pleasure of serving your town with. I asked to be part of the meeting today to present to your council a plaque, which is a plaque I don't give out to very many communities, only those communities who have taken the commitment and provided the leadership to engage in the awareness sessions from leadership on to the leadership team, and of course to all your staff. And that's a very big commitment that we've seen, as the work we do is national in scope, and to have a community like Stony Plain take the time to learn about the history and the current events that are facing Indigenous people in this country, and to make that commitment as a community to say, you know, we want to do better and make this a strong, inclusive community. So with that, your worship, I won't take too much of your time. I would like to present this to you, and if you can take a picture. I don't know how you guys want to do this, but
sure, it sounds good. Just give me an opportunity to allow council to provide some comment. I definitely appreciated your time with us as you did the presentation with us, and you had your dad in here to share his stories so that we can understand kind of the history and the knowledge. So I think that goes a long way in terms of building that bridge and that reconciliation. Stony Plain is committed to a path forward to reconciliation, and every little step helps. I definitely appreciated the work that you've done with us to get us to this part. Members of Council, any comments, questions before Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended one of your sessions that you held for a number of us. Council was involved, and I found it to be an extremely rewarding experience. Was it your grandfather who was present in that one that we held just in the room next door?
my father.
Your father. He was an enlightenment to me. So be sure to carry back to him how happy we were to participate in that. And I found you to be a very effective sharer of information, teacher, so that we could understand in an open environment. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And other members of council like to make a comment? Oh, see none? Thank you. We'll come up in front and we'll have a picture. Great. Well, members of council, that was good to get recognized. As Derek mentioned, he doesn't provide that to many municipalities. I just want to thank our town manager and the general managers that are part of our organization that have committed to walking this journey with us and with our residents to make sure that we do understand and we do provide that kind of the bridge. I think the less that we know, the more ignorant we are. So the information, the learning will allow us to work together in a true conciliation framework. So, thank you. With our agenda, moving number 5 is the statutory public hearing. We have nothing scheduled tonight. So moving on to adoption of regular council minutes. First one is for June 12th. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that Town Council approve the June 12th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. Members of council, you had the opportunity to read the minutes. Any errors or omissions on those minutes? Nope. See none, I don't see any. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to number 7 is council boards and committee minutes. And it's a TLC. Councillor Hansard.
Your worship, I move that Town Council receive the May 11th, 2023 Tri-Municipal Leisure Facility Corporation Board minutes for information.
Thank you. Members of council, you had the opportunity to read those minutes. Any questions or comments to the board representative? Seeing none, I do have one question to the board representative. I noticed there was some chatter and some presentation about the long-term capital planning for the TLC. Is that an in-camera session information, or can that be shared with members of council?
I'd have to look at the minutes, your worship. I don't recall in my minutes. I'd have to go back into my email. I don't believe it was in camera. The TLC general manager and other representatives will be present for our budget process. Did you have something specifically that you wanted to ask about?
Yeah, it's just the capital plan. I was just asking if that was in-camera session that as a board member you cannot share with members of council, or is that something that you can share with council so that we can have an idea of what's happening in terms before that presentation requesting for dollars?
Well, your worship, I'm not prepared to go into depth on that at this point. If you'd give me a little warning, I could have come with some information and clarified. I don't recall that it was an in-camera session. It was just a general discussion and the presentation from the general manager from their planning, much like our senior leadership team. And basically it was a layout of the projects that they anticipate could be done in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. Obviously, the ones that would be most important would be those coming right up. But as always, sometimes you think you need to do something on a plan, but in reality, it doesn't actually need to be done. Like a condominium might say, this is the year we had designated to resurface our parking lot, but when you look at the parking lot, it doesn't actually need to be done this year. So if you have something specific, I'd be glad to get information from you. I know that the board was in favor of the information that was presented that will be brought to council with the general manager in his presentation.
Thank you for that, Councilor Hansard. Nothing specific, just wondering if that plan could be shared with members of council, is my question.
It will be at the appropriate time. I mean, it's not a big secret, but I'll clarify
Okay.
if you would like, whether it was in camera or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Otherwise, it would steal the general manager's thunder, you know.
Yep, thank you. That's why I asked the question if it was in public or something that could be shared with the council. Any other questions for clarity and understanding? Okay. See none, call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, moving on along to number 8 is bylaws. We're dealing with a borrowing bylaw. Go ahead, administration.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. This evening, the Operating Expenditures Borrowing Bylaw 2676 BORR 23 is presented before you. The purpose of this bylaw is to set a maximum amount of borrowing on our operating line of credit through the financial institution. In April 2020, Council increased the limit on the borrowing bylaw up to $10 million to cover relief programs and expenses related to the pandemic. At the time of the approval, administrative noted once we understood the full effects, the reduction of the line of credit would be completed. Administration is happy to report no draw was necessary and did reduce the line of credit down to $5 million as soon as the pandemic relief program expired. The town's operating line of credit is held at prime less 0.75% and is currently held at $5 million. The town has not drawn from the line of credit in the history of this line of credit. This tool may be used as a cash flow mechanism to bridge gaps due to timing of grants, debentures, or tax collections if necessary. Administration's intent is to only draw if deemed necessary or financially makes sense at the time. The amount of $5 million was calculated at approximately 10% of our operating expenses budget plus contributions to reserves in the corporate plan. This amount is reasonable just given the corporate plan that is approved. As per our regular 3-year cycle, the bylaw is up for renewal, and we are recommending all 3 readings to reduce the bylaw down from $10 million to $5 million to align with our current line of credit. I'll now take any questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Members of council, any questions for clarity and understanding? Okay. See none, I have a question. In terms of the borrowing bylaw, does that affect our debt limit?
Through your worship to you and all of council, only draws against the operating line of credit would go against our debt limit. So currently, as it lies, there is no implication on our debt limit.
Okay. And then the second question is, I think you mentioned that this will help us kind of pay for things before taxes come in, et cetera. So as long as we don't have an outstanding balance, it does not affect our credit rating and our debt level then, right?
Through your worship, that is correct.
Okay. Councillor Laurie?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to administration. With this being a bit of an in and out account, I think you mentioned it was prime less 0.75. Is there a certain period of time in which there is no interest applied? Do we have 30-day, 60-day, 90-day on that? Or is it as soon as we draw from it, we are paying interest on top of it?
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to Councillor Laurie and all of council. So how the calculation works is the interest rate is annual, calculated annually, but it would be calculated monthly based on the draw date. So it would start accumulating as per that draw. So if you drew on a Monday and paid it off Tuesday, you'd still have that 1-day interest.
Just as a follow-up to that, Your Worship. Thank you. So just looking for maybe a little bit more than of an overview. You know, it's a great financial tool, and I think the intent is to hopefully not use it, but it could become impactful if we are using it. We are using it regularly. So how are we intending to monitor this and understand the usage and the potential additional impact of that interest?
Thank you. Through your mayor and your worship and all of council. So the intent is not to utilize it, and as mentioned in the history of the town, we have not. We did increase the limit just because we weren't sure if we were going to receive taxes. In the foreseeable future, I don't see. So we do, honestly, weekly cash flow analysis to see what we're looking at. Through the corporate planning process, we do more detailed cash flow analysis based on the capital projects that are coming up, all of those, developer levy, and all of those things that are going to impact our cash flow, but then also our projects. So we incorporate that within the corporate planning process as well. We also need to keep in mind our debt limit. The examples that I used here would be, potentially a really large project. Maybe we don't want to pull a full debenture, and it may be more advantageous to stage it out depending on when the expenditures need to go out the door. And it'll also be dependent on what we have for cash and investments at the time. So we do some pretty detailed analysis, and that would feed our decision-making process.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate the line of questioning that's started here. Just looking for some clarity on how or what mechanism is in place if this money is to be accessed? Is this something that's at the sole discretion of administration? If we're going to utilize this account, does this come back to council as a discussion item? Are we going to use this until it borrows or until the debenture comes through, whatever that is? So maybe just how that mechanism works to access the money in this account. So my understanding is this is to establish a limit. And then again, just looking for some understanding on the access of that money.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Anderson and all of council. So there is not currently a requirement to come back to council. So basically this borrowing or operating borrowing bylaw authorizes the draw up to that amount, similar to a debenture bylaw that would come forth to council. And so that would be the mechanism. However, we do have a policy as well in regards to, authorizations, and this is not a decision that would be just one person, and there would have to be multiple signatures as per our signing authorities to be able to draw.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to sit on that one here for a second. I do have one more question related to the dollar amount that's outlined. This is page 29 of our agenda package. I'm looking at the bylaw, the red line copy where it's been amended, whereas the total amount levied, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth paragraph, 2023 by the town in terms of tax levies is estimated to be $20 million. When I flip back to our corporate plan, or our current corporate plan, we had proposed that we would receive under 18 million in terms of taxation for this year. And so I'm just looking for some clarity on where the $20 million figure came from.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Anderson and all of council. So that is just a rounded number. So the 2020, if you look at page 48 of the corporate plan, the net taxes available for municipal purposes on the top page is 18.7 million. However, we also approved a 7.47 tax increase, which would requisition 1.3 million additional, or almost 1.4 million. So those two added together is where the 20 million comes from.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Any other questions for clarity and understanding? Councilor Fletcher, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to refer to page 30 of 38, and I believe it goes from 3.3.0 all the way down, which outlines who has the authority to borrow the money and who has the authority to sign it. Just for reference for each councillor, so in regards to the question Councillor Anderson was making.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Fletcher. Any other questions for clarity and understanding? Okay. Seeing none. Councilor Laurie for first reading, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the town council give first reading to bylaw 2676/bor/23, a bylaw to authorize the borrowing for operating expenditures within the town of Stony Plain.
Okay. Thank you. Members of council, any questions, comments, and debate on the motion? I do not have any either, so council members, I think this is a good bylaw. As mentioned, this is a bylaw that we've had in the past, is establishing a limit for line of credit. As mentioned by administration, it used to be $1 million, then we increased it to $10 million through COVID, just in case, in terms of the dollars and cents didn't come in properly. And now we've asked, administration's asked us to reduce it down to 5. I think they can handle the cash flows at 5. So knowing that there is no impact on our debt limit and the ability to service it, I don't have any problems going through with this motion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that Town Council give second reading to bylaw 2676/BORR/23.
Okay. Questions, comments, and debate? Call the question. All in favor? Councillor Hansard?
Your Worship, I move that Town Council give unanimous consent to consider third reading.
Okay.
Is this the same motion?
Yes, it is.
To third reading to bylaw 2676BORR23.
Thank you. And to those that are in gallery and those that are watching through our live YouTube channel, it is the fact that when council deals with all 3 readings in one evening, there has to be unanimous consent from members of council. So this is the motion that will allow us to do 3rd reading. Call the question, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Councilor Pletchko.
Yes, thank you. Your Worship, the town council give 3rd reading to bylaw 2676/BORR/23.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, comments, debate on 3rd reading? Okay, call the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, moving on to business items. Number 9, there's nothing scheduled tonight. So on to number 10, which is council discussion. And this is the time we allow members of council to bring anything up to administrator staff or just to share some information that other council members have done over the last couple weeks. Councilor Pletchko.
This evening, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Hansard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, you sent me off today to bring greetings on behalf of yourself and council to the food bank delegates from all over Canada who are meeting in Spruce Grove today and throughout the whole region. They went on a tour of several areas throughout the capital region and were to be back at the Parkland Food Bank in Spruce Grove for 4:15 p.m., but they got hung up in traffic and never showed up. But I did learn that there are 247 leaders of food banks right across Canada meeting there today. And Nunavut, Newfoundland, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, PEI, BC, Alberta are all in that delegation. And I had a nice little short speech prepared, but they sent us home because they were not going to get to us in time for Spruce Grove and Stony Plain councillors to return to their seats of duty. So I'm always amazed at the work that is done by Parkland Food Bank, how many people they serve, and how many families are touched by the generosity of our region. And it is a humbling experience to walk into that facility and see how much is done with so little room to do it. And everybody had a smile on their face. And I just wanted you to know that we were prepared, Mayor Acker and myself, and a representative from Parkland County to bring greetings, but that did not happen. That's all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to attend. It's too bad that they were not able to come again. Rush hour traffic is sometimes just like that. You end up being 2 hours late. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to administration, I noticed on Fairways Drive that by the playground, the parking lot there, the wooden stakes in the parking lot are no longer in existence. I was just wondering if they're being replaced.
Okay.
Through your worship to Councillor Loy or Deputy Mayor Loynes, thanks for the question. The bollards in question were in poor condition. They were rotted and were unable to be salvaged at this time. At this time, staff have informed me that the original intent is not to have them replaced. I am confirming that with the staff that are making the assessment. I expect to have that answer this week. However, the initial answer I received from staff was they would likely not be replaced.
Thank you. That's all for me tonight.
Councillor Laurie?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question that I have this evening is through you to the town manager. Over the last several months, we've noticed there seems to be a number of vacancies that have been posted within the town. Some of them appear to be repeated vacancies. Would the town manager be able to provide council with a report at an upcoming council meeting in regarding the human resources activities of the town within the last 12 months, particularly identifying departments and positions that have seen staffing changes, additions or reductions or conversions through our corporate planning process and so on, as well as any impacts to our human resources department and or recruitment challenges that we've faced and any of the tools that we're utilizing for that?
Go ahead.
Excuse me. Thank you for the question, and appreciate the just noting the challenges that are kind of going on in some sectors of the workforce or the workplace. Yeah, if a question on whether that can be provided, certainly the answer is yes. The opportunity to delve into some of the rationales or the instances would be appreciated. There's often, anytime when people leave an organization, there's various reasons for that. Sometimes it's to move onward and upward, so to speak. Sometimes not. And in some ways, every incident can be a little bit different, or there may be specifics of each one. We can certainly provide some broad overview and general perspectives on what we've seen or identify as challenges, but also what we see and identify as opportunities to build a good workforce that's ready to engage the challenges that we have as an organization, as a community, as an industry. So there's a few comments, but yeah, short answer is yes, that can be achieved.
Okay. Appreciate the comment and the question. I think as we continue to grow as a community, when we reach the next, we talk about the 30,000 level, when Soaring Plain becomes 30,000 population, what are we missing? What do we need in terms of staff and personnel to make sure that we maintain the service levels that our residents currently enjoy? Would it be possible to, I think there was asking for kind of a synopsis report timeframe? I think our next meeting is in July and the next one is in August. So which one would be probably better for administration?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, certainly, August, I can't remember the exact date. I think it's mid-August or the third week of August, I believe. That would allow time to provide a fairly robust report, or with the time and effort to do it justice. And frankly, Your Worship, part of summer or part of even the next few weeks, staffing, we're starting to see our vacation time starting to kick in, and people in and out of the building over the course of the next few weeks too. So August would certainly be doable.
Okay. Councilor Laurie, is August okay?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I do just have a little bit of a follow-up to that, and thank you to the town manager for the response on that. So I was able to source and find a report that had been generated from a different municipality, and in reviewing it, it contains much of the information that I kind of covered off in my question. So I will forward that and just summarize my question in an email to the town manager and CC Council on it as well.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilor Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question and a couple of comments this evening. Specific to parking requirements at municipal facilities, just wondering how we determine the number of accessible parking spaces that will be provided at different municipal facility sites.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Anderson, when we're looking at any facility, there are stipulations within different policies and documents that guide these plans. So one main document is our land use bylaw. There are certain parking requirements we're required to fit, as many on council are aware. Specifically for the accessibility parking, that's something I would have to follow up for specifically with an email. I don't have that information off the top of my head, so I'd be happy to give that specific information through council at a later date.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'll just provide a little bit of context there. I was contacted by a resident who sought to spend the day at the outdoor park, spray park sort of area of the community, and they indicated that there was a single accessible parking stall kind of in that area. If you go over towards the Glen Hall Arena, there's a few additional ones there, but directly outside the outdoor pool and the spray deck there. When I did a drive-through this weekend, I was only able to see the one accessible parking spot, and so did do a little bit of reading just on some of the building code and that sort of thing for Alberta, and I am wondering if maybe we need to add an additional spot there. So that's kind of the context of the question. So I appreciate administration looking into that one. And with that, just a couple of quick comments. Had the opportunity to celebrate Filipino Heritage Day with members of council, members of Parkland County and Spruce Grove councils as well, and the Filipino Canadian Association for our region, and just really want to recognize the work that they've done and all that the Filipino community brings to the Tri-Region and the economic, cultural, and social impact that they have. And I think our region is enriched because of their presence here. And really enjoyed celebrating with them through dance and food and sharing in their rich culture. And that was this past weekend. And then finally, just briefly before we are back again the first week of July, we are celebrating Canada Day. And so I look forward to celebrating that day with residents over at the Parkland Pioneer Museum grounds on July 1st. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Councilor Meyer?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just to echo Councilor Anderson's comments regarding the second Filipino Heritage Days. It was a great event. Made you feel very welcome. Councilor Anderson had warned me that they might call upon me at a moment's notice to speak, and I thought, no, you know, there's all these important people here. They won't possibly ask me to talk, but of course they did, so I stumbled my way through that. But great event, minus that experience. And just like I say, echoing Councillor Anderson's comments, they're a great addition to the Canadian culture, for sure. But I do have two other citizen concerns, if I can continue. So I was made aware, 52nd Avenue, the streetlights, the usual baskets that hang from they're the old style light stands, and the usual baskets that hang from them didn't make it up this year for whatever reason. So I'd just like to make administration aware of that. I'm not sure if that's a miss or maybe they're sitting somewhere.
So, Councilor Meyer, that'd be the street between 49th and 50th Avenue, or 50th Street.
Well, let me just check my map here. Just off Main Street, yes, and 52nd Avenue.
Okay. Is it?
So like one street over, that way.
Yes. Is it past the back alley?
Yes.
Okay.
Through your worship to Councilor Meyer, just for clarity, you're talking about the baskets that we would normally hang off of the lights?
Yes.
Okay. I'll inquire with staff about that and reply back through email.
Okay, and sorry, I'm just reading between the lines here. The mayor's question regarding them being to the, just off past the alleyway, is that denoting where we stop hanging baskets?
Yes, I think if I recall driving through downtown, I think as we redid the redevelopment of downtown, we stopped at the laneways. The first phase was doing the laneways. I think the last couple of years, we have not had baskets past that. So
Okay.
if you go on 53rd, which also has the old sets of lights in front, there's no baskets there. If you go down 50th, yeah, that's 50th, there's no baskets past that section as well. So I think maybe the question is, if that's a change, then is that a permanent change or is that just a budgeting change that we can bring it back next year?
Yep.
Your worship, maybe if I can just interject a minute here. I think the general manager's offered to just double check where and what and the rationale, and we can provide that to council, and then once that's clear for everybody involved, then subsequent to that, there can be another dialogue if needed, but just make sure everybody's got the same correct or clear information, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Councilor Meyer?
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on a matter I brought up, not in council. I had followed up with another citizen with the CAO regarding dust control. I'd just like to raise the concern that much like the fire season started early this year, and maybe changing weather patterns, we might want to consider, sorry, I should back up a little bit. In my question to the CAO is, what can we do and when does dust control go out? And I was informed we make our purchases in July for the dust control and make the application in July. And my point is that much like our fire season sort of started early this year with the hot, dry weather, that need for dust control is also elevated at the same conditions. So maybe an administrative response regarding if we would look at bumping that up, or if we have any plans. I understand we make a purchase with Parkland County for this chemical that's treating our roads.
All right, so it's the dust control, I believe it's the calcium that they spray on there. I think the question is a good one. I think Councilor Myers asked a question about the ability to be adaptive. As I mentioned that, so the weather patterns change, and I think we have a set schedule for things in terms of planning for our public works staff. Can that be altered and changed based on the weather conditions if it was definitely a dry, hot spring? Well, that kind of accelerates the need for dust control earlier than what we normally would have.
Through your worship to Councillor Meyer, dust control is often an interesting planned event. So you are correct. We normally plan for the normal dust control suppression through July. There is a coordinated effort usually between agencies and municipalities just to get bulk items. With the changing conditions, some seasons being drier, some seasons being wetter, there are application considerations. If we put the chemicals on and we don't have good conditions thereafter a couple of days, it doesn't set. We end up doing we could end doing two applications. It is something that I know that staff, if we get more and more complaints than expected, they'll have the conversations and see if they can move things up or down. And just as a general service, that's not just with the dust suppression. It can also be, for example, if we have a drier spring and we're seeing, or maybe have a wetter spring, for example, and we have more potholes, we can't get our full pothole filling across town necessarily going, like the unit won't be available, but we can usually resort to other options. So to the comment that our staff do, they're mindful of the conditions and the complaints that may come in, and see if there's actions that can be taken that would be meaningful and mindful of doing something that would help the issue. But there, like everything else in the operations, there's a really good time to do things, and there's sometimes just we have to look at alternatives in order to address the issue that's brought forward at the time of the season.
If I could just follow up, I'll address because I don't want to get into it. But I'm glad to hear comments about alternatives. I think maybe an alternative solution there might be some type of minus the what are we calling it? It's calcium. Calcium. Maybe some type of just watering down some roads to alleviate the worst of the dry conditions when they occur. Might be a quick and easy alternative that might get us through. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher, you had your hand up. Do you have something to say now?
Yeah, well, I just want to add to the conversation, if that's okay. I noticed that that's a big issue, and our general manager alluded to a product that they use that is weather dependent. But I'm just wondering if our manager is aware of a new product that's out there that's called calcium chloride. It is in crystal form. It is environmentally friendly. It can be applied at any time. And what it does is it eventually works its way down into the ground so that it's not something that you have to do. It's not like calcium, so that when it rains, we get snot all over everything and it looks like terrible. It's a real good alternative. I've used it now in 3 different locations, and it drastically reduces the dust, and it continues to work at it. So it's an application that you put on maybe 2 or 3 times over the next 3 to 5 years, and eventually it basically kills the dust that you got on a road where it might be a problem. And that's a product that comes actually out of Calgary. That's it.
Through your worship to Councilor Bletchfield, thank you for the comment and the information. I'll add that I'm aware of the product you're speaking of. I've read up on it. I've personally never used it myself or seen it used in agencies where I've been. I have read on some of the information that you've brought forward, and I know our staff are keen to look into alternatives as there's more information on these types of services than there's ever been, quite frankly, and the staff that we have at the Public Works Department are bringing in a lot of new ideas and new approaches, and I know this is one, our approach to this service and others, like you brought up, sometimes we need to rethink what products we're using and where they can be best used.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that forward. Anything else? No? Okay. I have a couple of questions to administration staff. One is behind Meridian Heights School, there is a gazebo there. There's a trail that goes south towards 44th. There's also a little depression there where I think we use that to control rainwater and goes to the creek. It was contacted by one of the organizers of the Rotary Run for Life regarding that there used to be a little bridge there that people can cross because they're trying to redo the race route, and when they're out there walking around, they notice that that bridge is gone now, so now there's a depression there, so that there's actually a chunk missing from the pathway. Are there plans to fill it, or are we planning to rebuild another bridge there? What's the scenario that's happening there?
Thank you, Your Worship. I did receive that question earlier today, and I did send it over to staff. I haven't gotten a full answer yet, but I am aware that there is one bridge being redeployed. It's been fixed up and is being redeployed somewhere in the network. I don't want to commit to an answer right now, but I want to. I'll be looking to see if that's the location in question and making sure that we're on top of that. So I can confirm that we're looking into that question right now.
Okay, thank you. Then I have another concern regarding. There's a cul-de-sac on Westera Drive that their streetlights are on 24/7. In the middle of the day, I've received a video that the lights are still on. So I'll send you the addresses after.
Thank you, Worship. If you could just send the addresses, we'll look into that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And then I think there's also a Forest app that we can go as well. So. Again, as residents reach out, we'll just forward that information and then also share the proper process as well. And as many people that live in our community don't realize that we do not operate them or own those light standards, but we do pay for electricity. So, okay, and that's it in terms of questions, but I just wanted to chime in about the celebrations of the second annual Filipino Heritage Days that was located in Jubilee Park this year. As mentioned by fellow councilors, it was a great celebration of song, dance, and food. Definitely the ability to celebrate our vast diversity in our communities is a great asset to us. I'd also like to mention that Councillor Loynes and I attended the grand entry dance or march into at Paul First Nation for the National Indigenous Peoples Days. It's great to be invited to be able to be part of that, to show our commitment as a town to work towards conciliation with our First Nation neighbors. And we also, again, we had the grand opening of Sky Dancer Indigenous Cultural Center, which is located in Spruce Grove, just off the highway before Jennifer Howell Way. Again, an excellent resource for members of our community and surrounding communities to sit down, have a coffee, open up their minds, and just learn about the cultural significance of this area to the Indigenous people, how to better kind of communicate and understand where the story is coming from, how information and knowledge is transferred. I think that is a good relationship for us to continue and support in terms of bridging our gap to fulfill our commitment in terms of the whole truth and reconciliation. And the third thing that we wanted to celebrate is Pride in the Park. We just had that on Friday. No, not Friday, Sunday, just right next door here. And as for the last 6 years, has been led by a community member and a group of community members that have put it on. And again, it is about celebrating diversity and inclusion in our community. We do not choose, what love is. Love is just love. It doesn't matter if you're tall, skinny, big, short, and round. It is all one. And the more that we celebrate who we are and have that open conversation about inclusion, diversity into our communities, the more welcoming we are to not just people of color, people of different diversions, but also to the immigrants that do come here, that we are a welcoming community and we will be accepting of everyone. So with that, that ends my commentary. And moving on to our agenda is number 12, and this is in German. So, members of council? What?
No, we have your.
Oh, yes. I forget that. Yes, so looking at that, moving on to our agenda, we have 11.1, which we added earlier, which is a closed session. And we'll be going to closed session to discuss personnel matters according to section 24 of FOIP. At this point in time, there'll be a motion to go in camera, and when we're in camera, there is no motions made in camera except for the motion to come out. Soon, right after we approve the motion to go in camera, there'll be a 5-minute recess to allow everybody to vacate the chambers that are not supposed to be here. Councillor Meyer, motion to move in camera, please.
Yes, the town council move into closed session to discuss per FOIP section 24, a personnel matter.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute recess so we can clear the chambers, please. Go ahead. Okay, welcome back, members of council, and those that are participating in the gallery, and those that are watching through our live feed. There was a motion made in camera to move out of camera by Councilor Pletchko, and that was carried 7-0. Administration, we're back into our public meeting. Has anybody registered to be notified that we're out of closed session?
Through your worship, no, there hasn't.
Okay. No one has, so then that moves on to our agenda, number 12, which is adjournment. So we are adjourned, so thank you very much, members of council and administration, for providing the package. That was pretty cool. Adjourned. Done.